I'm joined as ever by my friend Anne. Hello, Anne.
Hello, santé to you. Get to your good health.
Indeed. Sante, of course, you're living on Jersey. One of your parents is French. So there's a French English combination thing going on there.
I love all these multicultural mixes that we do. It keeps things fresh and dynamic and different. Yeah.
Oh, doesn't it just? So we were at Teen Street in the week, and it was amazing to be with people from all over the UK. And of course, it's a Bible college, so you've got folks from all over the world. Now, we didn't really meet many of those people, but some of the staff we did, they are. There was a girl from Germany. Last year we were there. We met someone from Canada. And one of the questions, which might be relevant here, actually, interestingly, I wasn't planning this one, was I was chatting with somebody who is pastoral care for male Bible students. That's basically his full time job at Cape and Ray Hall. But I
Mhm.
said to him, how do you cope with not just language barriers, because that's going to be an issue if they've come from Canada and they're with someone from the US? Yes, it's English and this is England, but some of the words are different, some of the phrasing's different, spellings, of course, is different. That's enough. But then you've got cultural differences with folks from South America or South Africa or Germany. They're all got different approaches to life, to living, to laughter.
Mm.
How do you get all that? And he basically said, we worked really hard. We worked really, really hard to get them to embrace different cultures, but that can be quite hard, can't it?
Oh, it can. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because I went to an international college when I was 16. It was a boarding place. It was all there for world peace because if you get to know other people, if you get to know other cultures, then you are more likely to like them or at least start to care about them because you know about them, and then you can start to appreciate the differences. The thing is, there were certain things that were just reinforced about stereotypes rather than anything else. But it was really lovely, and I mean, it absolutely brought us all together from around the world because you shared experiences together and you lived life and you helped each other out, and it was nothing about we were just humans together. It's good.
That's why I was kind of fascinated because they have I've forgotten how many Bible students they have, but the English students from the UK or England specifically, that's the tiniest portion of their student base because most people coming into Cape and Ray Hall, which is a Bible college since the 40s, 50s, they're coming from around the world. Canada, loads, US, yes, parts of Europe, absolutely. So actual English speaking British people is such a minority there. But I said, how do you manage that? So yeah, it is literally working at it and helping people to understand there are some things you can prepare people for. For example, if you're going to Spain and you're used to living in the UK, you're going to drive on the wrong side of the road. Just it's the wrong side. Don't care. It's the wrong side, and you have to learn that. Now that's quite a challenge, but that's really what we're talking about. That is a cultural difference in a sense, because driving it's very different approaches, different laws, different side of the road, different speeds. Maybe it's kilometers, not miles per hour. And we have to process all of that stuff. And that's just driving, let alone etiquette at meal times. Or do you stay for a cup of tea? Do you close the door behind you? Or should they do that for you? All this myriad of stuff. And it can be sensory overload.
Oh, I was just thinking when you're starting back with driving, we always seem to go back to driving, don't we? It's just the difference between driving on the other side of the road, regardless of how else you might describe it. The spatial awareness, the coordination, all the motor memories that you've got, and this is how you, if you've actually got a stick shift, I think, isn't it called over there? Like, your gear stick. It's even doing that with the opposite hand, like even moving it up and down if you're in an automatic or whatever, it's very different because you've got the entrainment in your body. Your muscles have remembered exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it and how you judge everything. But that's it, everything flips over because it's swapped because you turn, you turn the wheel in the same way, but you kind of like everything is, yeah, it's all flipped all over the place. It's a real mayhem for those with sensory processing issues with sensory-based motor issues who find it difficult enough to coordinate and to get driving down anyway. I mean, I've worked with quite a few of our adults who've really struggled with driving because of the complexities of all the steps and the organizing and the sequencing and the muscle tone and the strength and all of the coordination that goes into driving, or at least passing a driving test. And it's tough. It's really hard.
One thing that I picked up in Spain, so this is what 2004, 2000. No, 2001. Just a long time ago. It's nearly a quarter century. The one thing I learned to do then, which I have never stopped doing since, is you grow up in the UK, you know that if you're crossing onto a road, the chances are the cars are going to be coming from your right. Okay, because that's if you're crossing a road. In the UK, we drive on the left-hand side of the road, basically. So you know to look to the right before you cross the road. When I'd driven in Spain, and I still do this today, I look both ways every single time I cross a road. I don't know what people are thinking about me doing so because you're supposed to look to the right, but you know what? I look both ways. Why? Because people make mistakes. Because we've got these stupid laws where you can cycle on the wrong side of the road sometimes in the UK. I don't know who thought that was sensible. So actually, looking both ways now, I'm actually doing better than I would have done. Look a little bit less like a madman because we've got cars and bikes all over the place. But actually, that's a little trick I learned in Spain because I thought, well, if I'm going to look right, I could get run over because now the cars are on the opposite side of the road. So I'm going to look both ways every time. And I never stopped doing it. And now it actually makes even more sense in an environment with e-bikes and scooters. Yes, they're illegal, but they are there. So looking both ways is actually quite sensible.
Yeah, it's a tiny little thing, but it's those muscle, using vestibular, using the muscles, remembering one way, not the other way, and overriding. It's become automatic for you, but that's what we're trying to do when it comes to sensory health principles and practices, so that it becomes automatic, so that it doesn't take up any extra effort to think about doing things well. So for you, it's great. It was ingrained. Probably then you needed to learn because it's like that's quite a life and death situation. So you kind of remember those things kind of. But for it to continue, now it's that second nature. And that's what I'm always hoping that folks get to that point where it's automatic, it's second nature. They don't think about it, but they're practices that will do them very well in all areas of life.
Just sticking on this topic just for a moment, I know that I learned to look left and right because it makes sense. But when you go across a road in the UK, I don't know about other nations. I can't think about what they do. But in the UK, generally speaking, you'd have some paving, usually little bobbles on it, which isn't going to make you fall over, but you can feel with your feet if you're partially sighted, hey, look, I'm going down an incline. That means I'm going to a road because now I can feel bobbles. They don't hurt, but you can definitely sense them. So it's a physical clue that something is changing because now it's not on smooth concrete. Now it's actually bobbled concrete effectively. But sometimes you go to cross a road, and although we anticipate that the road is so much lower than the pavement because there's obviously a curb at the side of the road, you think, well, it's however many inches down, centimeters drop. So you go to make a step. Occasionally, if the road has sunk, which it can do, you find yourself walking and your foot hasn't actually touched the floor now. And now you're looking like an idiot trying to cross a road thinking, I've just stumbled, what's wrong with me? And it's not because there's anything wrong with you or you've got a problem with your sensory processing. Actually, it's because the road's the wrong height. And I assumed it would be higher because it's sunk.
Yes, and that is like all that automatic stuff that we go about our daily lives expecting the curb to have a certain drop, expecting this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, when we're not paying attention or we don't realize because we don't think to think about these things because it should typically be there. But you give a change like that, and all of a sudden the brain's like, oh, it has automatically moved the body in the position just to land so gracefully on your foot. And then it's not there. And then it's not the most embarrassing situations. It's like, oh, I'm fine.
Yes. But, in that scenario, the gracious method with which we transit from the curb to the road, it's not gracious anymore.
No.
Right. Now, I had a thought off a chat we were just having before we came on about boating, seas, all that kind of stuff. Sensory healthy boating. I mean, sensory healthy passengering. I mean, what is it if you're on a boat and you're not the person with the wheel thing? I mean, are you a passenger? Are you? I don't know what the right word is for that. I suppose it's a passenger, isn't it? You're being transported. Now, my wife will always take, I don't know what they're called, a little tablets that she takes. She can't get on a boat or even think about getting on a boat without taking some motion sickness tablets. They come with lots of health warnings. Check with your GP if you're not sure if you can take one or not. But the point of that is to try and help you on a boat. Now, here's what I wanted to start with. Hammocks, which are absolutely to do with sea and boating and ships because developed as a way of helping the body not move whilst at sea. The ship might be shaking from side to side and pitching up and down and all that, but a hammock allows you it's a clever bit of physics, allows you to be still amongst the waves and all the rest of it. And it's like some sort of gyroscope, but for a human being. And because you're still, now you can sleep and you're not throwing up everywhere.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. When I first saw one of those on one of those old ships, it was just like, oh, I was like set alight thinking, how fantastic is that? Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you know, the little things that that bring me that light me up, that strange one. Yeah, that's sensory health coach. Yeah, it was amazing. It is, it's a lovely thing that, yeah, you will stay still. Everything else will move around you, but there's a lot less movement anyway. For you to have to tolerate, so that it will mean that the system stays a lot just in more health and not getting quite so sick.
I mean, I imagine if you got two hammocks and you put them at a cross shape to each other, you could probably eliminate all the pitching and rolling of a ship. Generally speaking, you'd have a hammock that's got two fixed points. So what you're doing is getting rid of one form of motion, or at least vastly reducing it. I mean, if you've got a hammock that's pitched, I guess, front and back in a boat. I don't do boating stuff. Sorry if you know nautical terms, but at the front and we know what the front and the back of the boat is. It's silly terms. Anyway, if you've got it pitched forwards and backwards, then you're still going to be affected by the other motion. And of course, the seas aren't lovely perpendicular. They're not parallels. You know, it's going to go all over the place. But if you can remove some of that movement, that is what the hammock does, which then enables you to sleep, not perfectly, but much better.
Yeah, and it's interesting in the clinic where I have my therapy space, and I have these four-way stretch bungees, or the four-way stretch lycra sheets, really, so that people can go in and they get deep touch pressure. It's very calming, very organizing. It has either 2, 3, or 4 points that you can hang it up from the ceiling to rest in, but we can also get the little bungees that if there's an up and down movement, so it can absorb or give you extra up and down movement. So I think it would be phenomenal. I don't know if that's in boat design. Here we go. Andy B and Anne, like, here we go. Boat design, getting, you know, for sleepers, that actually it can, something will be able to absorb the up and down movement as well as the side to side and the kind of like all of that. That's definitely boat design into vestibular. That would be a phenomenal thing. And even for seats. I mean, I'm going out on a rib, so it's going to be choppy. I do get seasick, or I do get motion sickness. I have treated my vestibular system enough, and I wouldn't normally do these things, but I know I'm going to be outside. And that's a really interesting thing, that I'm going to have pure visual contact with the horizon, with everything else. I'm going to be able to go up and down with the boat. I am not going to be reading a book. I'm not going to be listening to anything other than the experience of life around me. And I will be going up and down, but I will be going with the flow of it all, and I will have the cold. If I get too hot, temperature can also affect and make people feel more sick. That's why it's really important to cool people down, to cool people off if they are starting to get some form of motion sickness.
Not quite related. I'll come back in a minute, but I remember as a lorry driver, whoever had the truck before me loved to have it hot. It was their regular truck. And when I got in to drive it, I don't think the transport manager was happy when I said I refuse to drive this vehicle because I can't turn the heater off. Oh, don't be stupid. Don't be silly. Just get on with the job. No, because if I'm driving at night as it was, with the heater on full blast because they'd set it up that way, why or how, who knows, I'm going to be asleep and be dead. So you either fix the heater or give me another truck. And they actually had to put it into a garage and get it fixed, because I refused, but the driver had done something that the heater was always on full. And I said, I can't drive with the heat blasting because I will not stay awake because the heat will send me to sleep.
Yeah. And that, again, is getting that match, that sensory fit between your sensory needs and his. The fact that he needed it hot, there could be physiological reasons, there could be all kinds of reasons around that. But the reality was that he drove well when it was hot. That is not a good match. And well done you for just holding ground and being assertive enough to say, you know, I can't do it. Well, basically, again, it's life or death, isn't it? It's kind of like, yeah, please, just I want to live. Just get me another truck or get this fixed, because it's not going to work well. It's not going to be a good outcome.
No, but temperature obviously is going to increase what we're going through. I think I just come back to the hammocks idea, because what the hammock is doing is limiting the movement of the ship by effectively removing one of the types of movement. You got front and back, left and right. Okay, we know it's going to be diagonal too, but you got front and back, left and right. And what it's doing is trying to remove one of those. So when the ship's pitching from side to side, actually, you're not, because that's when it actually acts perfectly as that gyroscope that helps you to be still.
Mm, mm. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they develop, honestly.
So as a kid who went to Legoland in Denmark, I would have been, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 10. It's a long time ago. What I do remember is thinking, have we not got better designs in ships? Because all the cabins, there's a bed. Okay, great. You're over there overnight. It's fine. It wasn't a fast ferry. It was like Harwich, I think, southeast of England across to Denmark. So it was a long passage. But I remember lying in the bed thinking, this is the best we've got in the 21st century, is a much bigger slat. So when the boat slams me to one side, I'm either going to hit the wall, or the wall is, sorry, the middle of the cabin's got a big piece of wood, so I can't roll out the bed. And I remember thinking back then, could we not do better? I didn't really think about hammocks in ships, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century. And here we are, 21st century. We still have fixed beds in boats where you are the bit that has to move.
It's bizarre, isn't it? And it doesn't, if you think of all the investment in things, you actually don't need to construct beds. You don't need to build these things. You still need bed sheets, but basically your bed sheet can be your hammock, and you do stack them. I mean, we've seen pictures of how it used to be, where they would be stacked, and you have different heights, and you can still fit the same number of people in there, but it gives you a lot more space because you can actually take down the hooks, you can take down the things during the day. So if you want to be in there and you're walking around, you've got more space. It's a very usable space, plus it helps too. And if you are fully supported, there is an issue for some people, I understand, if they're not flat, but the brain can still go to sleep if the full body is supported. And if there's enough backwards tilt in the vestibular system, then most people can actually go to sleep with that. Some people struggle sleeping upright, even if they're supported, unless they're really tired. But if we can just tilt the head back enough, which is what a hammock does, then you should still be able to relax into that. Your full body is supported, so your brain can switch off. It doesn't need to hold your muscles up. It's there, fully supported, and you can go to sleep.
Interesting thing you just said. So my oldest son, for a time, was advised, because some issues with his stomach, you need to put the bed on stilts at one end to lift the head up. Now, I think I lifted the head by maybe 8 inches or something. I got some blocks of wood and made him some stilts for his bed. So it was to try and help the acid in the stomach or something. The problem was he struggled to sleep, and all the way through the night, he was trying to get back up the bed because, of course, gravity then pulls him down. So did it help? Well, his sleep was rubbish. He woke up not happy. Did it help the acid? Not really. It could have done, I guess. But it was one of those where you realize that actually being flat, it actually is quite important.
Yeah. And again, we need to get the right fit for that. It's interesting with just another family member at the minute having to stay in a bed where because of pressure sores, or the potential of pressure sores developing, they've given, which is very considerate of an inflatable type bed, but it is plugged in, so you've got this noise going on throughout the night. And also it's going back to that water bed, those mattresses that are just inflatable. So it moves every time that she moves in bed at night. And it's just like, I'm really not sure. If you don't actually need that support yet for your pressure sores, it will be a godsend. When the pressure sores, should the pressure sores actually develop, or there is a risk of that developing, that is a time, when it really does outweigh the benefits of being flat and secure and on a normal mattress that we all like to sleep on. But yeah, affecting noise and movement that sensitively is not good for sleep.
Come back to boats, sleeping in particular, which I don't know why we went down the hammock route, but it's in my head. But we often think, don't we, of hammocks in the garden. Yeah, we'll have a hammock, we'll just lie in the breeze, and that's great. But hammocks really were invented for ships to prevent the sailors from throwing up everywhere, being weak and unable to do their job. How would smell affect that? And the other thing I was thinking was, if you actually remove one of the movements, because it's fixing 2 points, therefore you're only going to get rid of half of the potential movement. How much would removing half that movement affect negatively from a sensory perspective, because now you're not thrown up because it'll be a bit smoother and all the rest of it. But then how much is that actually going to negatively affect your brain's thinking, why are we not moving in this way anymore?
I don't think. Well, you're saying that if you were sleeping in something that had 2 points, so you're thinking that
Hmm.
it might negatively, affect you because your brain might be thinking it ought to be doing something else.
Well, that's the question, because if I'm lying on a normal mattress on a bed,
Mm.
it doesn't move anyway. Okay, it's a nice fixed solid point. If you are shaking it from front to back, left and right, obviously it's going to be pitching and yawing, and it'll be all over the place. That's a shit. Hence the hammock, because they're removing. I think they usually went from the middle out, didn't they, for the hammocks rather than front and back. But the point is, you're removing some of the movement, which will help you to sleep because now you're moving less. But I just wonder where the sensory perspective might be on something negative from your brain knowing that it's moving, but
Mm.
you're only now getting 50% kind of the movement of the ship.
I can understand that thought process. I think for most, because we're ending up with a calming situation, the brain isn't wanting to look out for that stimulation. It's not like it's on a roller coaster seeking that movement. The movement is just there. So it's not wanting something that it's not getting. The lack of movement or taking out that one element, I think, would enable just the brain to calm more and relax into it, because there's enough of lots of other sensations still going on. All the noise would still be there. There'd still be plenty of tactile. Yeah, it's not as if you're taking away all stimulation, which is not good. That would be a weird one too.
So, would it be worse if you were lying in your hammock with your eyes open, awake? Would that be more of a problem? Because now you can definitely see the ship doing all sorts of weird things. Would that be a problem? Because if you're asleep, I can imagine that it's less bad than it was, therefore it's better on balance. But if you're lying in your hammock and you're awake and the ship's tossing and turning, would that screw your brain a bit?
Yeah, it could do. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the patterns were, if anybody like diaries were written of. But I think most people would have gone into their hammocks to sleep. Um,
I'm not a historian.
no, I know. It's just like, oh, I need my boy. I have a historian in my household. It's just like, oh, where are you when I need you?
Okay, let's move back to boating, ships. I mean, when is a boat a ship? I don't know. The thing that goes in the water that doesn't sink, that one. So you're on your boat now. When we're going to Denmark, obviously we're going across the North Sea. Yes, that bit. Anyway, I'm really not into boats. Can you tell? And there was quite severe pitching at one point, and a lot of people were getting very, very sick. I never had that. I had the sensation of being sick, but to be honest, I'd eat something and I felt great. So I didn't really care because it didn't bother me. But a lot of people would feel very, very queasy. Now, I know there's going to be some physical differences from person A and person B, but why is it I was able to cope with that? I mean, I remember on one crossing across the English Channel coming back from France on a school trip, even the people who were actually paid to be on the boat were throwing up. And there was a couple of us who were like, what's the problem? It just didn't bother us. And I don't seem to have ever lost that.
I think that was brilliant. And there is a definite job for you in the future, should you decide that radio is not your thing or you want to change. We talk about thresholds in the world of sensory processing and integration, and hitting neurological thresholds. There comes a point. Say, for example, when there is that movement over time. Most people could probably cope for the first few minutes, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes before people start to feel ill. Because it takes a while for the threshold to get hit with all the intensity of the movement, it's just like compounded. Okay, the brain is just getting more and more movement, and then it starts to feel unwell. Your threshold in the vestibular system is probably much higher. Some people would call that under-reactive or under-responsive. It might be only to certain movements. Other movements you wouldn't, it depends on which vestibular receptor is particularly being hit in the motion of boats, or what combination of vestibular receptors are being hit with the motion of boats. So I'm not saying that you might be fine with all vestibular movement. You might be, but it could just be this particular combination of movements, which for you is absolutely fine because of the way that your brain processes vestibular information. But it's likely to be an under-reactive, under-responsive vestibular system, or another way of describing it is a high threshold, a neurological threshold. You need a lot of input in order to get that kind of typical vestibular reaction of then feeling sick or ill.
So my next question would be, was I broken or was everyone else on the boat broken?
Oh, you are not broken at all. Nobody is broken. Everybody just is. It's just good to know who you are, what your sensory thumbprint is, what your needs are, and how you thrive best.
So we were transiting from Jersey to the UK on a boat, and there's a point at which it gets very. I'm guessing the waves grow larger because I was imagining that the channels got deeper quite suddenly, and it's okay. It's a bit of pitch and roll and all that, and then all of a sudden, you can feel the boat really starting to lurch and all the rest of it. And I was okay. Joe was less okay, but I found if I could see the horizon, I thought, well, will it help or not help? And it sort of helped a bit, but I wasn't really struggling anyway. But how does what we see impact our motion sickness? Would we be better to go somewhere where we can't see anything, or would we ordinarily be better to make sure we can see the sea?
Yeah, that is a personalized. I think all of those things are worth trying. It would be a personalized approach of either just take out visual, shut those eyes, just let the vestibular system sense what's going on and just relax. Try not to tense anything. Let your body just go with the movement of where it's at. Other than that, you can use vision. It's what's nice about looking out at a fixed point is that you still have your peripheral vision that is telling you what's happening. So that's why you don't have that conflict between your vision and your vestibular system. So you've got a point in that is stable. That's where the horizon comes into things. You've got a point that's stable in the distance, but your eyes are still picking up. It can still tell that the boat is moving. It can still pick up everything else, even though you are focused with your central vision on a point in the distance. So we don't have any conflict, but it is helping to give some stability to your system by focusing on a specific point. So it will slightly dampen down the impact of your vestibular system. And again, depending on how strongly your visual nerves, that processing from your vision is, how strong your vestibular processing is, it depends on that combination as to how much that will help you or not.
I guess for some people, they're never going to adjust to working on a ship because they will never be able to overwhelm their own body. There's always going to be any sort of a job. You get used to certain things. Yeah. And I guess being on a ship is no different because you're going to grow at some point. If you're on a plane, you get used to the thrill of the acceleration and, the bumps that happen. You're not so freaked because you now know what the noises are. But on a ship, it's going to be the same basic principle. And there is going to be a point at which you have to think, I'm always going to be throwing up. This really can't be my job.
Yes, I think so. And that's the difference between those who get their sea legs and those who don't. But that is hard when your brain gets used to, if you've been on a ship for a season and then you come home onto dry land and it's really bizarre, very disconcerting because your brain is anticipating and moving without you thinking. It's all gone subconscious. It's all gone automatic, that you naturally adapt and that your brain has been processing this movement all the time and expects it to be there. And then you come back to dry land and it's really solid. It doesn't move at all. And your brain's like, ooh, this is a bit weird. So yeah, it's things we need to do for sailors too, coming back onto dry land.
I hadn't thought about that. So we would have to then help people readjust to not being in a topsy-turvy place.
Yeah.
I just assumed that would be like, off you go. It's all good now.
Nope.
Okay, explain that one, because my brain can't compute that one at all. Surely if you're not moving now, it should be easier.
Yeah. It's just because our brain has habituated. Our brain has got used to that movement and has embraced it as the new norm. That's what it is. When you've been weeks, if not months, out on ship, and you come back in. Be interesting to chat to the submariners as well and actually find out that difference in gravity. Same way with the astronauts. The astronauts come back from space. It's all linked in with the vestibular system. What happens out of space, what happens under the water, although things are pressurized under the water. So that helps. But again, it's still a different experience. Being on the water, you are constantly dealing with that movement and your brain is constantly processing it. So yeah, it's going from a high stimulating environment into nothing. It's just a shock for the system. We're not very good at going from intense to not intense. We all function best with some form of transition into a new, whether it be into a new busy supermarket or out again, or transitions are always easier when they are longer, when you're going from more intense experiences to less intense. And being on a boat with all of that movement that you have to cope with 24 hours a day, you can't not be on a boat 24 hours a day. And your vestibular system is always awake. It is always processing that information and then succumbing when there is very little, if you are then on ground and on a flat bed that doesn't move. It's a shock to the system, that's all.
It might be really silly and far-fetched. Is it possible that you could get off a boat, get onto dry land and fall over because your body can't cope with the fact it's not moving?
Yeah.
Wow.
That would be quite extreme, but yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Righty-ho. Okay. This is why I don't work on boats, because I think I would adjust quite well and forget everything isn't moving and try and adjust for stuff that's still.
I think if you're on a cruise ship, I don't think you would, because they've dampened down. They've got those dampeners within the boats. So some of the boats, obviously, that would be very strange. And you'd think, oh yeah, no, they've picked up a sickness somewhere along the way. But for other boats, for the little boats, yeah.
Righty-ho. So as we continue our series of sensory healthy things, we're looking at sensory healthy ships, boats, sailing, passengering, hammocking. I don't know. As ever, how do you best prepare for going on a ship when it's 5 hours of crossing, it could get choppy and rough? It's a big ship, but you know what? It's still a big ship in a bigger ocean. Therefore, to prepare. Now, we've mentioned some of the motion sickness pills. See your doctor if you're not sure if you can take them or not. But from a sensory healthy perspective, you've got seawater, you've got water, you've got movement, all this, the noise, the engines are sort of driving away, very low frequency. How do you best prepare and then best recover from a cross-country ship?
Mm-hmm. Let's get all the senses involved where possible. I do think being outside where possible is really helpful, because that your brain can only absorb so many sensations at once. And that's where the tactile system can really come into its own. So if you go out on deck for when you're allowed to, you can see what's going on. You can hear what's going on. Expose your skin. Take off, don't unless it's particularly wet and soggy and absolutely freezing. Take off any layers. And get the cool, get all the sensations that will come, that your skin will pick up, that will dampen down other areas of basically the vestibular system is what we want to help as much as possible. So it's using sights, use smells, find if there are certain smells that you like to take with you, and either have a spray or stick it on your handkerchief, and you can use that to help calm you. Chewing things, certain textures, fragrances. Have an explore. Google the kind of chewy things that might help you, and the certain tastes that might help you with that too. And you may find that the auditory system can help if you play certain music that particularly helps you, whether that be, fast and beaty, get pure 247 radio on and take it out there. Or sometimes that will make things worse because you've got that clash between what's going on auditory and vestibular, but it depends on your system. It may be something that will really help you. So see where you can use vision, smells, sights, sounds, your tactile system, and physically, perhaps even just like walk in a way that you are like walking on the spot looking at the horizon. Not necessarily walking through a boat is not the best because you've got a lot of you can't anticipate what the boat is going to do if you are walking on the boat. But if you are standing out on deck or if you're standing up in a boat, you can anticipate a lot more. You can get some muscle work into your system without it being as disruptive as trying to actually walk through a boat, which I wouldn't recommend. Actually, I would get to a place, stay in that place, or get outside where you can for as long as you can, to help use the other senses to help you cope.
And then you've done your passage on a ship and you come home, you've docked, you've got off the ferry, whatever. How do you then resettle? Because I mean, if you're driving a car, you've already got yourself in a situation which is different. You're now in a vehicle. If you're on a cruise ship, that's not going to happen. You're just got your legs and off you go. So there's different ways of coming off the ship. I know, for example, the Isle of Wight, you can actually cross there as somebody with a car, or you can cross as just a passenger. So you walk onto the ship and you walk off the ship at the other end. So there's different ferries, but even that, there's going to be different ways. Because once you're out in a car, I suppose if you're driving, it's probably easier because now you're focusing. So any negatives are probably going to be subdued.
Yeah, subdued. But you probably would notice, like going to sleep that night, your brain, you would still feel as though you're moving.
Hmm.
So it's continuing to do exercise, continuing to give yourself tactile input, continuing to chew. The vestibular system, things normally stay in your vestibular system about 24 to 48 hours if you're really sensitive. So you can be sick. You can have a delayed reaction. You can be sick 2 days after you've got off a boat. That's the most extreme. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but normally, yeah. So we do have to watch in therapy. We really have to watch when we're doing things with the vestibular system because it has there is a delayed reaction to all of this because of the way that the brain processes information. So do look after yourself. For most people, I would say for 12 to 24 hours after you get off a boat and do things to settle your vestibular system.
I didn't know that was going to be as interesting as it was. I thought it'd be interesting, but that's even more fascinating because I didn't realize there was going to be an after effect. I thought it was just like coping while you were on the boat, but I didn't consider the fact you could fall over when you get off the ship. I know that's rare, but it's possible. And chucking up 2 days later, we would be, I'm ill. Not necessarily.
No, we see it often. Well, when we're very careful when we're in therapy, working with systems, but some people are just really that sensitive. You'd be on the other side of our vestibular spectrum. But there are some people who's absolutely are that sensitive, and that's where it's really important that we ask people to get back to us. Okay, we've done a treatment session, but it's just like, no, you need to let us know. Does it affect their sleep? Can they not sleep that night? So we know that we then need to pare back the way that we are treating their systems, because we have to be so sensitive because it's a really, really sensitive system.
I've really enjoyed sensory healthy shipping, boating, passengering, I don't know, ferrying, whatever the right phrase is. If you're into the oceany stuff, I'm really sorry. It's not my forte, or Anne's, I think, possibly. So one thing just to finish, I said, am I broken because I wasn't reacting to everybody else? And you very lovely said, no, you're not broken. You just need to know you.
Mm-hmm.
But how often do we think we're broken? Actually, we're not broken. We're just not like everybody else.
Yeah. We've got to find out who we are, how we are, own who we are, but also help. Don't just accept and think, right, that's it. But there is a way of helping life be a little bit easier should some things be getting in the way of life and it's stopping you doing the things you want to do.
I've enjoyed this one. Anne, thank you. If you have any questions or topics for Anne or you want to connect with her, go to our website, pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can connect with Anne, all that she's doing in sensory health. Thank you, Anne.
That's brilliant. Thank you. See you next time.